Part 21. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 201. Apophis looked at Su Xian, and the vigilance in his eyes never disappeared. However, this human was too restrained, and she had no choice. Without the sword puppet, she was just a weapon after all, and could not defeat the human in front of her. She had to find a perfect sword puppet. Besides, she didn't want to stay in the Wailing Cave anymore. She was tired of living with insects every day, and she wanted to make more friends. To find more souls like Xia. Come on. You and I will sign a contract. Apophis released a spiritual mark, and Su Xian followed suit and also made a spiritual mark. The two signed an equal spiritual contract. The contract was signed. Apophi's eyes flashed with purple light, and he released the restraints on Xia and Miao Tian. The two recovered at the same time. Looking at the figures of their loved ones, Miao Tian and Xia were speechless and choked, and couldn't believe what they saw. Xia, you are free, Apophis reluctantly said, thank you for your company for so many years. Go back to the one you love. Are you willing to let me go? Xia said in surprise. This spirit of the weapon is a man of his word. Go, Apophis said proudly. Thank you. Xia turned around. Her small and exquisite soul was a head lower than Apophis. She looked up at her and smiled. Actually, you are not evil at all. Having been with Apophis for 100 years, Xia knew his temperament very well. Over the past 100 years, Apophis has only taken care of her meticulously and never made things difficult for her. When she first met Apophis, the latter did not have a specific form. Now Apophis's human form is formed because of her guidance. Although the magic sword is an extremely evil sword, Apophis is just a lonely spirit of the weapon who longs for company. Faced with 11 ER's thanks, Apophis turned his head, clenched his soul's small hands tightly, and said, who asked you to thank me? Come on, let me go. Su Xian, who was standing aside, smiled. Sure enough. Apophis is a tsundere. She watched 11 ER throw herself into Miao Tian's arms, her eyes flashed with the last stubbornness, her soul body flickered, and returned to the magic sword. Su Xian looked at his disciple who had reunited with his lover after a long separation, and left. The trip to the Sorrow Cave ended up like this, so it was not in vain. Old Five's heart knot was untied, and it was estimated that he would be able to break through the King realm in a very short time, and then he, as a teacher, would be able to enjoy the happiness. Apophis. Come out, let's talk. Su Xian shouted to the magic sword. The magic sword trembled, and her voice was a little choked. There is nothing to talk about with you. Remember the agreement between us. Also, don't expect me to help you. I, Apophis, will never do anything for you humans, unless. She paused. Then she said firmly, no unless. Su Xian said faintly, you won't secretly cry in the magic sword, will you? No. Apophis sobbed, how could the sword spirit be reluctant to part with a mere human soul, even if she is very cute, very well behaved, very pure, very lovable, very. Apophis said dozens of adjectives in a row. Another big denial. But so what, this sword spirit will not be reluctant to part with her. Su Xian. I haven't started asking yet. You confessed everything yourself? Inside the sword body, Apophis hugged her knees and squatted alone in a corner, recalling the past 100 years in her mind, which was the happiest time since her birth. At first, she did want to make Miao Tian her sword puppet and devour Xia's soul, so she induced Xia to sacrifice and implanted the demon sword body into Miao Tian's body. But after feeling Xia's beloved soul, she hesitated. She had never seen a human with such a pure soul, so she let Xia accompany her in the magic sword and used her own soul power to nourish Xia's soul. As a self-born sword spirit, Apophis didn't even know who the former owner of the magic sword was. Since the day she was born, there was only loneliness in her life. She once thought that she should be evil and she should adapt to the extremely evil magic sword. Until Sierra came and changed her spiritual life. Later, she saw many humans and other intelligent creatures, but no one soul could be purer than Sierra's. The souls of those people only made her feel dirty and disgusted. But Sierra's beloved soul already had someone, and it was impossible for her to accompany her forever. She couldn't bear to see Sierra lonely, and missed her day and night, so she took this opportunity to fulfill Sierra. As soon as Sierra left, her world seemed to become empty. She felt that she would never meet a soul like Sierra again, and she didn't need one. In the future, she only needed a sword puppet to control everything in her own hands. She wanted to cut off everything in the world and become a real magic sword. Teacher. On the other hand, Bawang Ho had recovered. He fell to his knees with a plop, tears streaming down his face. Teacher, thank you for helping your disciple find Sierra. Beside him, Sierra's soul body also knelt down with him. Get up. Su Xian smiled and said, you are still crying at such an old age. This is a good thing, not a bad thing. Don't cry. Miao Tian was already slurring his words with excitement. Su Xian said, the most important thing at the moment is to help Sierra find a suitable body, otherwise. Miao Tian was shocked. He was too excited before. Now he remembered that his lover was still a soul. If he could not get proper protection and could not find a suitable parasite, the soul would dissipate. But how could a suitable body be so easy to find? If it was not suitable, it would harm Sierra. And with Sierra's kind character, she would never take over someone else's body. Teacher, please save Sierra. Miao Tian only realized now that he, who was once so arrogant, was just like this. He had to ask others for help for everything. On the other hand, the teacher was powerful, mysterious, and talented, but he never showed off. Su Xian said, the teacher has a plan. Please give me some advice. You can let Sierra return to the magic sword first. When you return to Dingai King City, the teacher will have a way to create the most suitable body for Sierra. Return to the magic sword. Miao Tian was surprised. He always felt that Apophis had bad intentions and was thinking about his wife. This is the best way at the moment, Su Xian said. The master has signed a contract with Apophis, and she will not hurt Sierra. Teacher, can't we go back now? Miao Tian was still reluctant. No. Su Xian shook his head, the master has more important things to do. The disciples have found their partners one by one. As a teacher, Su Xian also wants to bring his wife home as soon as possible. If it weren't for the delay of the Wailing Cave, he might have given birth to a second child with his wife at home. Then listen to you. Although Miao Tian was eager to save his wife, he didn't want to delay the teacher's business. He was grateful that the teacher could go to the Wailing Cave for him. Sierra, are you willing? Miao Tian looked at his beloved wife. I'm sorry that you have to stay in the demon sword for a while. I'm fine, Sierra smiled. Really? Sierra. My Sierra. I love you so much, Mua. Before he finished speaking, the sword spirit Apophis rushed out and hugged Sierra. She was depressed just now, but her appearance changed in an instant. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 202. Looking at Apophis, who was holding his wife. Miao Tian's face turned black. Although this was just a weapon spirit who didn't know much, he was still jealous. Apophis, please respect her. Stinky man. Apophis cursed back. Su Xian. This sword spirit, there are so many things to learn, but these things are pretty good. I'm leaving. As he said that, the sword spirit was about to take Sierra back to the magic sword. Wait, Su Xian stopped her. Anything else? Apophis looked at Su Xian. Although the man in front of her was different from other Yang-attributed humans, she would not treat him differently because of this. Su Xian pointed at Miao Tian. Before you leave, help him get rid of the mysterious substance in his body. Mysterious substance? Apophis frowned. Are you talking about the magic sword body? It's very easy to take this thing out. She stretched out her hand and the mysterious substance in Miao Tian's body quickly gathered and came out of his body. After taking out the demon sword sub-body, she seemed to be a little disgusted, and threw it to Su Xian. This thing may be of some use to you humans. Since you promised to help me find a new sword puppet, I'll give it to you. As soon as the voice fell, Apophis had already returned to the demon sword with Xia soul body. Su Xian held the demon sword sub-body and felt it carefully. Is this what Apophis uses to control the sword puppet? Just by holding it in his hand, Su Xian could feel the evil and destructive breath of the demon sword sub-body. What a good thing. Su Xian sighed. Apophis was really arrogant, even pretending to be indifferent when giving something. Since this thing was cut off from the demon sword by Apophis, it became a rootless source, and no matter how difficult it was to refine, it was nothing in front of Su Xian. He held the demon sword sub-body in his hand, and the chaotic breath burst out. Su Xian wiped out the evil and destructive auras and replaced them with chaotic auras. The demon sword body also lost its power to the parasite, but after Su Xian's transformation, it can enhance people's perception of the chaotic world. The surface effect may be far inferior to the previous demon sword body. But it will not cause any harm to the body of the parasite, but can enhance perception. In the long run, the effect is naturally far superior to the previous demon sword body. One is to provide temporary power, and the other is to enhance the perception of the world. Each has its pros and cons. Su Xian transformed it, not because he needed it, but because it still fits the fifth disciple Miao Tian. Now Miao Tian has returned to normal, and he is only one step away from the realm of the king. This thing is more suitable for Miao Tian. Old 5, the thing is for you. Su Xian threw the transformed mysterious substance to his disciple. Miao Tian was puzzled. Teacher, I finally took it out, and you want me to integrate it again? It's different. Su Xian shook his head. You will know if you try it. This is a good thing. It is the sub-body of the top mythical weapon. Don't waste it. Yes. After experiencing the Sorrow Cave incident, Miao Tian's respect for Su Xian was from the bottom of his heart. Naturally, he would not doubt Su Xian and immediately integrated the modified mysterious substance into his body. After integrating the mysterious substance again, the manic breath disappeared, replaced by an incomparable sense of comfort. It seems that his perception of the world has improved. Originally, he had no idea how to condense the world seed, but now he has some inspiration. This made him even more shocked. The teacher is really mysterious. The casual transformation turned the mysterious substance into a beneficial thing, which is really amazing. At the same time, the system prompt sounded in Su Xian's mind. Ding, you have bestowed upon your disciple the ultimate mythical material. Congratulations on triggering the 10,000-fold crit return and obtaining the mythical ring, Qingquan Lai Xiang. Qingquan Lai Xiang, mythical quality, one of the jewelry sets of trance. After wearing it, your casting speed will be greatly improved, and you will gain the skill storage effect. You can store your own skills in the ring, up to 2 skills. In battle, you can use the skills stored in Qingquan Lai Xiang against the enemy without consumption. Evaluation: what countless warriors have been seeking all their lives, and they will always think of it, and there will be a response. Mythical ring. Su Xian did not expect that his luck in the return would be so good this time, and he got a mythical ring directly. The effect of Qingquan Lai Xiang is also very strong. It stores skills and releases them in battle without consumption. If used well, it is definitely a killer level skill. Whether it is a sneak attack, a counter-attack, or a strong attack, it is still a mythical jewelry. Teacher, what are you laughing at? Miao Tian looked at the sudden smile on Su Xian's face, and asked in confusion, is it because I am stupid and didn't understand your intention? No. Su Xian shook his head, it makes me happy to see you grow up. Practice hard and strive to enter the king realm as soon as possible. Miao Tian was full of confidence, now that my heart knot has been untied, plus the opportunity you have given me, I will definitely be able to break through the king realm. Su Xian nodded, it's good to have confidence. In this case, I will leave too. He looked at the magic sword again and asked, Apophis, who are you going to follow? With you. A voice came from the magic sword. Apophis had seen so many humans, and only Su Xian was barely qualified for her to follow. As for Miao Tian, he was only suitable to be her sword puppet. Then you follow me. Su Xian said, enter the space ring, otherwise it will be too ostentatious. Apophis said disdainfully, do you think any space ring can withstand the pressure of this artifact spirit? Su Xian waved his hand, come in and try it, you will know. Swoosh. The magic sword was put into the clear spring-flowing sound ring. This. After being put into the ring, Apophis was stunned. Artifact. Su Xian actually has a real mythical artifact? No wonder Su Xian didn't show too much greed when facing himself, it turns out that he already has a mythical weapon. Humph. Apophis pouted and put away his inexperienced look, so what if it's a mythical weapon? It doesn't have a spirit, so it's still not as good as the magic sword. After dealing with the magic sword, Su Xian looked at Mai Wang again and said, Xiao Lu, from now on, you will follow your fifth brother to explore the world. Su Mai Wang's eyes were full of tears, teacher, I want to follow you. No. Su Xian refused decisively, you are 5 years old, and you should be sensible. Your teacher also has private matters, you know. Oh. After being rejected by Su Xian, Xiao Lu suddenly became depressed and could only follow Lao Wu with grievance. Lao Wu and Xiao Lu are not weak. In most places on the battlefield of these two worlds, they have the ability to protect themselves, so Su Xian doesn't have to worry about their safety. Let's go. Su Xian waved his hand. Silver light flashed, and the figure disappeared into the sky. Sixth junior brother, let's go too. Miao Tian glanced at the wailing cave behind him, not knowing what the outcome of the battle between the two worlds' kings and the insect king would be. He had no intention of intervening. Without the blessing of the mysterious substance, he no longer had the ability to influence the battle. After more than 100 years of neglect, it was time to speed up and catch up with the times. After Bawangho left, a pair of blood-red eyes lit up in the wailing cave, watching him leave. Warm Ti. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 203. Lauren Star, the City of All Races. The Council of All Races was held here. Except for those races that had betrayed Lauren Star and fled to Blue Star, representatives of all races on the entire Lauren Star boarded the council. Among them, the 36 strongest races on Lauren Star were represented. They are the Hades, demons, fallen angels, dark elves, dragons, dwarves, mechanical life, undead, shadows, succubi, elemental life, magic life, minotaur, goblin. Races like minotaur and goblin are severely polarized. Ordinary goblins and minotaur are at the bottom of the entire Lauren Star, but the kings of the two races, the mechanical bull king and the goblin king, are also ranked as strong men on the entire Lauren Star. They don't care about the lives of their people. Only the strong who have come out from the bottom can get their special look. Everyone, please be quiet. The person who presided over the Council of All Races was a fortune teller of the Dark Elf. She had helped Lulan Star to accurately predict many events, and was deeply respected by the powerful people of all races. She presided over all previous sessions of the 10,000 Races Council. Her deep eyes swept over the powerful people of all races, as if she could see through the thoughts of any life. Everyone, there are 3 important things that need to be voted on in this council. The first thing is about the recent actions against the Sorrow Cave. The Dark Elf fortune teller said in a deep voice, in order to obtain the power deep in the Sorrow Cave, we dispatched most of the elite combat forces of the 9 legions of Lulan Star in the battlefield of the 2 worlds. Among them are 6 king-level powerhouses. The final result was that the Prophet died in battle, the King of the Fallen Angels, Marshal Claudia, died in battle, the camp of the 3rd Legion in the north was destroyed, and the 2 kings of the Eastern Legion were seriously injured. The soldiers of the 3 legions suffered heavy losses, and they lost the right to compete for resources in most areas with Blue Star in a short period of time. What? How could this happen? Even the Prophet died in the Sorrow Cave. Many powerful people in the 10,000 Races Council were shocked and talked about it. Excuse me, Your Majesty, what was the final result of the trip to the Sorrowful Cave? A strong man asked. The result was not good. The fortune teller said, we did not get the source of the mysterious substance. According to the last words of life issued by the fallen angel Claudia before her death, the source of the mysterious substance was an evil magic sword, which eventually fell into the hands of a human. Please read the information about that human. The fortune teller activated the last words of life left by Claudia. In the projection, the strong men of all races saw a human wearing a red evil ghost mask, the 8 desolate Marquis who was also quite famous on the Lulan Star, and a primitive spirit life that could turn into a tower. The fortune teller said, according to the last words of life, the human wearing a red evil ghost mask is their backbone, and the magic sword should have fallen into his hands. Before his death, Claudia applied to the Council of All Races for the highest level of hunting order to kill this person. Now please vote, and more than 90% of the votes mean that the resolution is immediately passed. The voting begins. The results are counted. 99% passed. This was also expected by everyone. The only ones who did not pass were some representatives of small races who had never had their own opinions, and the representative of the elves who had recently returned to Lulan Star, the elf Saint Atna. The resolution was passed. The fortune teller said calmly, then from today, the Council of All Races will conduct a comprehensive investigation of the identity of this human. Once the identity is found out, he must be killed. Regarding the support and combat power adjustment of the battlefields of the 2 worlds, the military will be responsible for conveying instructions to you after the meeting. The following is the second resolution. Regarding the handling of the Eternal Forest, the ancestral land of the elves betrayal of Lulan Star is unforgivable. Considering that the elf Saint Atna turned over a new leaf, returned to Lulan Star, and brought back important information about the Blue Star. The Parliament withdrew the full-scale attack on the Eternal Forest, but in view that some elves still had second thoughts, the Parliament decided to send a garrison of all races to the Eternal Forest to supervise the elves. Please vote on whether to send a supervisory garrison. If more than 90% of the votes in favor, it means the vote has been passed. Voting begins. As expected, more than 90% of the race representatives chose to agree. If it weren't for the betrayal of the elves, perhaps Lulan Star would have conquered Blue Star long ago. The representatives of the pro-war faction of all races hated the elves to the core. The elves were once one of the strongest races on Lulan Star, and now they have fallen into such a situation, all of which is their own fault. If it weren't for the faction of peace still posing a threat, the elves would probably have ceased to exist on Lulan Star long ago. The resolution is passed. The Dark Elf fortune teller announced the result, From now on, the Council of all races will send supervisory troops to the Eternal Forest. Please cooperate with the representatives of Lauren Star. If you violate it, the Eternal Forest will be burned by the anger of the gods. The fortune teller's eyes fell on the elven Saint Atna. Saint Atna, do you have any objections? Your Majesty. Atna's face was pale, and she whispered, the elves have no objection. Very good. The fortune teller nodded. Next, announce the third resolution, about the actions in the other 3 forbidden areas of the battlefield between the 2 worlds, whether it is necessary to continue exploring. As soon as this resolution came out, the parliament suddenly became noisy, and many strong men held their own opinions and argued endlessly. It can't be explored anymore. The Goblin King said, for now, the most important thing is to recuperate, retreat to the territory, and do our best to preserve the resources in the territory. The operation in the Sorrow Cave is a tragic lesson. If Blue Star wants to explore, we can just harass it. There is no need to take the initiative to attack. The Mechanical Bull King also said, I also agree with the Goblin King. The forbidden area is too dangerous, and there is no clear existence that can change the situation of the war. There is no need to fight too hard. We must let the human race suffer once. There are also many other strong people who oppose. The voting begins. In the end, only 55% of the votes were passed. The resolution is invalid. The Dark Elf fortune teller was not surprised. The results of the 3 resolutions were all within her expectations. The only thing that surprised her was that the elf Saint Atna did not resist the second resolution. This was completely unlike her previous style of behavior. She didn't think Atna would be so honest. But there is nothing to worry about. Now, except for the elves who are still surviving on Blue Star, the life and death of the elves on Lauren Star are under her control. The light of the elves eventually faded. The history of Lauren Star will be continued by the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves are the only Orthodox elves. Everyone, adjourn. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shuet. Chapter 204. The battlefield between the 2 worlds, the infinite altar. Su Xian returned here again. Compared to the last time he left, there are more undead creatures here. The area of 500 miles outside the infinite altar is almost completely occupied by undead creatures. It has reached the point of flooding. Su Xian disguised himself as a skeleton monster, passed through the dense army of undead, and came to the center of the infinite altar. Under the gaze of the skeleton brothers, Su Xian jumped into the pool. As soon as he entered, he saw his wife taking a hot spring bath. Suying, my wife, I'm back. It has been more than half a month since we left. Lin Suying, who was bathing, was shocked. She turned back and looked at Su Xian, who appeared at the altar. There was an unconcealed surprise in her eyes. A short separation is better than a new marriage. Missing like a spring. The soft body crashed into his arms. Su Xian coughed twice. Suying wife, that, you forgot to put on your clothes? Lin Suying blushed, broke away from Su Xian's arms, put on a layer of gauze in front of him, and pouted, humph, you are so ungrateful, it's not like you haven't seen it before. And she pulled Su Xian over and looked into his eyes. Suying is Suying, wife is wife. What is Suying wife? Do you want to marry another wife? Su Xian. Women. Sure enough, they are 2 different people before and after falling in love. Too many details. Ahem. Su Xian quickly changed the subject. Let's not talk about it, let's take a bath first, and then talk about business. 2 hours later, the 2 walked out of the pool contentedly and put on their clothes. Lin Suying's face was ruddy, lying in Su Xian's arms, her eyes full of tenderness. It's only been more than half a month, you really broke through the Feng Hao realm. Su Xian said proudly, whether there is a breakthrough or not, didn't you feel it just now? Not serious. Lin Suiying rolled her eyes, jumped up, and the Shuiyu sword appeared in her hand. Come on, it's time to consolidate the family status. Su Xian, wife, my waist hurts. Lin Suiying smiled, you were not like this just now, come on or not, if you don't move, then I will move. Swish. The blue sword light flashed. Su Xian held the dingai stick and resisted hastily, but was blasted far away. Come again. Lin Suiying chased up, the sword shadow was ethereal. Her sword seemed slow, but in fact it was because her swordsmanship reached the pinnacle, enough to affect the opponent's mind. Mirror flowers and water moon. Fast and slow can't just look at the surface. A slight impact may bury you in this beautiful and picturesque scenery. Su Xian's surrounding domain exploded. There was nothing to hide in front of his wife, and two domains unfolded at the same time. Dual domains. Lin Suiying's eyes flashed with shock, and then became relieved. After all, Su Xian is different from others. From acquaintance to companionship, she witnessed how Su Xian stepped onto the road of strength step by step. This made Lin Suiying feel a little bit of crisis in her heart. If this continues, she will not be able to keep up with Su Xian's pace. Even though her opportunities and qualifications are considered top-notch in the entire Blue Star, it seems to be a lot worse than Su Xian. Unconsciously, the sword in Lin Suiying's hand became heavier. Su Xian was blown away again, and then got up again. My wife is still strong. He had fought with Claudia before, and Suiying gave her a sense of oppression that was even greater than that of Claudia. You know, Claudia is a veteran king level, and Suiying has been promoted to the king level for less than a year. This cultivation speed is too fast. Su Xian was shocked, and Lin Suiying's heart was in turmoil. Su Xian was stronger than she had imagined. Even though she had not used her full strength yet, it was incredible that Su Xian, who had just entered the Marquisate, could fight her to this extent. Very powerful. Lin Suiying's smile became brighter. Next, I will be serious. No. Su Xian complained bitterly. His wife was so strong, it seemed that he had to continue to eat soft rice. But he had to eat it hard. Su Xian felt that the world around him changed, and he came to the center of a lake. In front of him, the water moon sword was quietly suspended. The sudden calmness made every cell in Su Xian's body tense, and the breeze that blew in his face brought a strong sense of suffocation. He even had difficulty moving. Wife, I give up. Give up is useless. Lin Suiying's ethereal voice rang out everywhere on the lake. Swish. The water moon sword stabbed. Su Xian's pupils shrank. The water moon sword was far away, but it was close at hand in the next moment. He knew that he couldn't dodge it. In this case, Su Xian closed his eyes directly and rushed forward without any defense. Crack. The next second, the lake realm shattered. Lin Suiying had no choice but to withdraw her moves, pulled away the water moon realm, and let Su Xian and herself collide. She glanced at Su Xian unhappily and said angrily, "You just know how to cheat." Su Xian turned on the shameless mode, "I can't help it. Who made my wife reluctant to hit me? It's just the family status. You are still on top and I am on the bottom in the future. That's more like it." Lin Suiying couldn't help laughing. Su Xian secretly gathered strength in his heart, and he must turn the tables when he becomes strong in the future. There were ancient sages who could endure the humiliation under the crotch, and he can do it too. By the way, wife, didn't you just break through the king realm a year ago? How come you are so powerful? Su Xian said, I have fought with Claudia from Lulan Star before, and I feel that you are stronger than her. Lin Suiying smiled, there are also differences in the realm of kingship, just like the 9 ranks of marquiship, there are also some subtle realms of kingship. The prerequisite for entering the realm of kingship is to condense the seeds of the inner world, promote the world seeds to germinate, bloom, and bear fruit, and then enter the realm of kingship after absorbing the fruit. This is the first stage, known as the fruit of the realm of kingship. I have left the first stage and entered the second stage a few days ago. Lin Suying continued, the second stage is to catalyze the inner world, so that the power of the inner world can be completely connected with the outer world, so that the inner world can reflecting reality. It is called the King Realm Master within the range of the world's power. You are the master. Claudia and I both belong to this realm. There is a gap in strength, but it is not too big. Su Xian listened with interest. What is the third stage? Lin Suying patiently explained, the third stage is that the inner world nurtures real life. At that time, under the traction of the origin of life, you can contact part of the origin of the world. It is called the king origin, and then it is back to nature. The inner world is integrated into the body, and the body becomes the world, sensing the higher level of chaos origin. That is the semi-god realm. Su Xian was thoughtful. Realm fruit, realm master, origin, 3 small realms. It seems that the road to becoming a god and retirement is a long way to go. He suddenly remembered something and asked casually, wife, have you seen Hai Lao since you entered the two worlds battlefield? No. Lin Suying said, I asked the Blue Star Alliance for news about Hai Lao. He should have entered the heart of the two worlds battlefield alone. He appeared near the 4th line of defense a few months ago, and there has been no news since then. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 205. Speaking of King Dingai, Su Xian and Lin Suying were both a little sentimental. King Dingai has been fighting for his whole life, spanning the battlefields of 2 realms, guarding Dingai King City for 300 years. In the end, he didn't even know where he was buried. The watchmen of that generation were broad-minded and always said with a smile, there is no need to bury the bones in a mulberry field, there are green mountains everywhere in life. But everyone knows that it is just helplessness. Su Xian looked at the Dingai stick in his hand. In fact, the Dingai stick was not suitable for him. If the 1000 machine umbrella was upgraded, the Dingai stick would be even less useful. He promised Sun Xiaokong that as long as Sun Xiaokong won first place in the global exchange competition and won honor for Dingai King City, he would give the Dingai stick to this disciple. However, the incident in the abyss suddenly forced him to enter the battlefield between the 2 realms, and the matter was temporarily delayed. Don't think so much. Lin Suying consoled him, Old Hai is open-minded by nature and advocates freedom. No one can persuade him about the path he will take in the end. If he is still alive, we will meet again. If he dies, all we can do is help him kill more enemies and pay homage to Hai Lao's spirit in heaven. Well, Su Xian nodded, let's solve the altar issue first. When I came from outside, the number of undead creatures outside was as vast as the crucian carp crossing the river. If it drags on any longer, I'm afraid things will get worse and worse. Lin Suying's eyes flickered, I will bear all this. Su Xian took her hand and said, it's us. Lin Suying nodded heavily. Su Xian was a little worried. Before I came here, I went to the Screaming Cave, where countless white worms lived, as well as an extremely powerful worm king. Do you think there is a creature as powerful as the insect king under the infinite altar? Lin Suying's delicate body trembled. Have you entered the depths of the Wailing Cave and fought with the insect king killing Gu? Gu Killer? Is that the name of that insect king? Su Xian frowned slightly. Do you even know about the Screaming Cave? As soon as Su Ying entered the battlefield between the 2 realms, she went straight to the infinite altar. She seemed to be familiar with the infinite altar. Su Xian originally thought that her goal was just the infinite altar. Now it seems that is not the case. Since Su Ying is also familiar with the Wailing Cave, then her target may not only be the infinite altar, but all 4 forbidden areas. Lin Suying sighed, Su Xian, you should know that I have a teacher who lives in Qingzhou City. Su Xian nodded, I know. He had already guessed that Su Ying's teacher was a reclusive powerful man. Su Ying's transformation from mediocre to outstanding, and then to dominating an era is probably all related to her teacher. If you look at it this way, Su Ying's teacher is at least in the demigod realm. He asked, so your teacher asked you to do these things? Lin Suying shook her head, teacher, all she gave me was guidance. It was another senior who asked me to do these things, but I promised that senior not to tell anyone what I wanted to do. Therefore, I planted a verbal spirit prohibition on myself, and I will never leak this matter. If there is any violation, the soul will be destroyed. Su Xian's expression became more and more solemn, can't even those demigods know? Lin Suying smiled bitterly, those demigods may not all be dedicated to Blue Star. Once any one of them leaks the secret, the plan will completely collapse. At that time, it would be a disaster for the entire Blue Star, and I did not dare to take this risk. At this point, Su Xian had already guessed a lot. The battlefield between the two worlds was created by the collision and fusion of the Blue Star and the Lowland Star, and the four forbidden areas were also created as a result. What Lin Suying did is likely to be related to the secret of the fusion of the two worlds. Su Xian added, then Xiaoli's life experience is also related to the senior in the battlefield between the two realms. Yes. Lin Suying's face looked a little painful, and she whispered, Su Xian, don't ask any more, you will know one day. Just trust me, okay? That day isn't too far away. Okay, I won't ask any more. Su Xian said no more. Su Xian always trusted Su Ying in his heart. He was just worried about whether the so-called guidance was correct. If the guidance itself is wrong, then Su Ying is likely to be the one to bear all the blame in the end. I want to meet your teacher, or that senior. Su Xian was worried after all. Good. Lin Suying looked at him firmly, when I go back this time, I will take you to see my teacher. If the senior agrees, I can also take you to see her. Recalling that senior, Lin Suying felt sad. That one. He was truly the gentlest and most tragic person she had ever seen. The two no longer exchanged this heavy topic. Su Xian looked at the candles on the altar in front of him. When he stepped into the feudal realm, his power had already been integrated independently. He only needed to activate the power of the second realm to light the candles on the altar. The two worked together. But within half a day the candles were all lit. Matching for men and women. Day to day. It's early June in the blink of an eye. Su Xian and Lin Suying stood in front of the altar on the 99th floor. Next level. It was the 100th floor. The two people looked at each other, with expectations and worries in their eyes. No one knows what will happen after entering the 100th floor, the center of the infinite altar. Su Ying, your heart is beating very fast, Su Xian said with a smile. Lin Suying came over and held his hand, are you ready? Remember what I said. If you encounter an irresistible crisis, run away immediately and don't worry about me. Su Xian grinned, my wife doesn't care, so who should I care about? Lin Suying was not joking, her expression was very solemn, stop talking nonsense, I'm serious. Don't worry, I have a backup plan and I won't die here. Stop it. Su Xian said with a puff, don't say such unlucky words, maybe there is a huge energy spring below? Then we can take a bath below for 3 days and 3 nights, wouldn't it be wonderful? Lin Suying glared at him, it's already this time, and you are still thinking about those improper things. She cursed, but she held Su Xian's hand tighter. The two of them activated their power at the same time and activated the central column. Boom! The altar trembled. Mysterious runes appeared on the central column. A huge energy field swept the entire altar, and the surrounding environment became dark. The netherworld fire shuttled between heaven and earth, like 100 ghosts at night. above the altar. All the undead creatures were still at this moment. The soul fire in their bodies swayed, and then grew stronger, rushing towards the battlefields of the two worlds like crazy. Su Xian and Lin Suiying stood hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, among the thousands of nether fires. No matter how dark the sky and the earth were, no matter how the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, there was no need for the stars to shine and the light to illuminate thousands of miles. Everything. As long as there was someone by my side, it was enough. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 206. Thousands of underworld fires are extinguished. A little light suddenly appeared in the darkness. The 100th floor of the infinite altar finally appeared. The eyes of Su Xian and Lin Suiying fell on the distance at the same time, where there was a huge head. Looking around again, the 100th floor altar is as wide as the sea, with no end as far as the eye can see. When they looked at the head, the eyes on the huge head also opened, looking at the two people with turbid eyes. Sure enough, it appears again. Su Xian looked at the huge head. That should be the head of Yelong. His body was hidden in the darkness and his body shape could not be clearly seen. In terms of breath alone, this dragon is probably not much weaker than the insect king killing Gu in the Screaming Cave. The Shuiyu sword had appeared in Lin Suiying's hand. She looked at the evil dragon and gently raised the sword in her hand. Without saying a word, the sword intent directly locked onto the opponent. Human, the evil dragon spat out human words, you are finally here. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Wait for me. Lin Suiying sneered, are you waiting for me to take your life? The evil dragon said, you have the aura of that person in your body. The divine envoy is indeed right. She will not give in so easily. But, are you the only one to come and die? Even if you restrain me with the help of the method taught to you, I am still not something you can shake. As for Su Xian, he was simply ignored. Lin Suiying sneered, do you know why I chose to start at the infinite altar? Because you are the weakest one. Roar. This sentence directly angered the evil dragon. It opened its mouth and dragon breath spit out. Lin Suiying dodged the attack with a slight jump, and slashed at the evil dragon with her backhand sword. Only then did Su Xian see that the evil dragon's huge body was locked, with only one head capable of fighting. No wonder the aura was so powerful, but its performance was far inferior to that of the insect king killing Gu. The huge chains completely restrained the evil dragon. The power on the chain was exactly the same as the candle they lit before. I see. Su Xian probably understood. Su Ying tried her best to light those candles and started the mysterious ritual again and again, just to weaken the evil dragon's power and get a chance to kill it. Otherwise, with the evil dragon in its heyday, they wouldn't have even a chance. Lin Suiying wields her sword like a painting. The extremely beautiful swordsmanship also hides the edge that can cut through everything. The two fought, and the light between heaven and earth was intertwined. When the sword intent was concentrated to the extreme, Lin Suiying's figure disappeared, leaving only an aqua-blue sword floating in the air. A calm lake appears. The evil dragon's pupils suddenly locked. It was in the lake, its spirit was tense, and a strong sense of crisis was constantly stimulating it. Kinka. Suijitsu. It saw a crescent moon reflected in the water. Looking up at the sky again, the Shuiyu sword had suddenly stabbed its head. The evil dragon roared angrily, and countless corrosive venom suddenly spurted out from the ground below the altar, bombarding it from all directions without blind spots. Poof! The sword still penetrated into the evil dragon's head. The flesh and blood around the sword tip shattered like a mirror and exploded. This is the ability of the Water Moon Sword, which forces the mirror to shatter. Even defenses below the demigod level cannot withstand the strongest move of the mirror flower, Water Moon. Water is the gentlest and most turbulent. At the same time, Su Xian's figure appeared next to Lin Suiying, waving the Dingai stick, directly blocking all the venom for her. As for the poisonous gas in the sky, he sucked it all into his body. It didn't affect Lin Suiying at all. Roar! The evil dragon roared again, and used its own aura to forcefully push away Shuiya's sword and Su Xian. The two of them stepped back and looked at each other, seeing solemnity in each other's eyes. Although Lin Suiying's sword hit the evil dragon just now, it did not cause much damage. The evil dragon had rough skin and thick flesh. It was too difficult to kill it. The evil dragon's body was filled with soul fire. Those soul fires turned into countless monsters and rushed towards Su Xian and Lin Suiying overwhelmingly. Leave the little monster to me. Su Xian's whole body was filled with thunder and lightning. Good. Lin Suiying nodded, holding the Water Moon Sword to kill the evil dragon again. Thunder and lightning filled the air, and the soul fire was instantly extinguished. Seeing the soul fire all over the sky, Su Xian thought of something. These soul fire should be the life core of those undead creatures. No wonder the number of undead creatures increases every time a level of altar is opened. It turns out that the purpose of the ritual is to extract the core of the evil dragon's power and weaken it layer by layer. Finally, they have a chance to defeat the evil dragon in its weakest state. Otherwise, like the insect king killing Gu, if the 5 great kings besieged it together, they would only be tortured. The two cooperated tacitly and constantly fought against the evil dragon. But things were far from going as smoothly as they imagined. They could feel that the power of the evil dragon was slowly getting stronger and the restraints of the chains were weakening. This was probably because the soul fire of the undead creatures outside returned to the body of the evil dragon through some special channel. Isn't it enough? Lin Suiying's eyes were sharp, and her hand holding the sword was trembling. The sword in her hand was broken into pieces, leaving only the hilt in her hand, and the broken sword body melted into the ground. The next second, countless Water Moon swords appeared in the altar. Lin Suiying's expression was solemn as never before. She held the hilt of the sword and pointed forward, and countless Water Moon swords fell towards the evil dragon like rain. This move is the most powerful secret of Jinghua Shuiyu swordsmanship. 300 miles away from Mirror Lake, there is a magical moon between heaven and earth. Everything I saw was a sword in the mirror and a moon in the water. The evil dragon wailed. Its mind became confused and its soul fire was extinguished after being pierced into its head by the vast sword. A bloodline emanated from its horn and rushed straight into the sky. Above, countless undead creatures seemed to have sensed the call and all rushed towards the bloodline that appeared in the center of the altar, one after another, merging their soul fire into that bloodline. Blood continued to ooze out of the hand holding the sword of Lin Suiying. She was still struggling to hold on, as if she wanted to fight the evil dragon to the death. During the confrontation, Su Xian, who was cleaning up the monsters, didn't care about so much. With a flash of silver light around him, he appeared directly at the horn of the evil dragon and smashed down with the Dingai stick. However, his strength was too weak to cause effective damage to the horn. Let's fight. The next moment, the soul scalpel appeared in Su Xian's hand and chopped it down suddenly. The evil dragon's already confused mind was slashed like this, and it suddenly fluctuated violently. The Water Moon Sword intention also shattered a lot of soul fire, and its breath weakened again. Come again. Su Xian saw that it was effective, and the clear spring-flowing sound ring on his hand flashed. The second soul scalpel appeared. Another soul slash. This slash also completely cut off the evil dragon's reason. Hundreds of bone spurs shot out from its skull, trying to kill Su Xian. Su Xian didn't expect the evil dragon to be so cruel. It actually used the skull as a thorn. The moment he felt the crisis, Su Xian's body was already shining with silver light, but he was still a step slower, and two fist-thick bone spurs directly pierced his chest. Puff! Su Xian's eyes darkened, a mouthful of blood spurted out, and his consciousness fell in a trance. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 207. This was the first time Su Xian was so seriously injured. Two bone spurs, one of which pierced the edge of his heart. The evil spirit continued to corrode his heart. If he hadn't entered the feudal realm and his dependence on the body was greatly weakened, these two bone spurs would have killed half of his life. Plop! Su Xian fell to the ground. The evil dragon completely ignored his own condition, and in a dying state, he once again activated his skull to turn into thorns, hoping to completely eliminate Su Xian. Leave me alone, I won't die. Su Xian's voice rang in Lin Suying's heart. Now is the best opportunity to kill it. Lin Suying handed the sword hilt forward. The water moon sword shadow poured down and pierced into the head of the evil dragon. At the same time, the evil dragon's bone spurs had already pierced Su Xian's body. Only this time, it didn't penetrate, but was stopped by a golden light. It is the semi-god level secret technique, the golden body of fortune. Showing weakness to the enemy is Su Xian's strategy. Only if he shows the flaw between life and death and arouses all the evil dragon's anger and desire to kill will the evil dragon give up its defense and attack him with all its strength. The bone spur was blocked, and the evil dragon showed panic for the first time. The ring on Su Xian's hand lit up again. The second storage skill. It was still the soul scalpel that penetrated the evil dragon's soul again. Coupled with the endless water and moon sword intent, the evil dragon's vitality was reduced to the extreme. Puff! Su Xian spat out a mouthful of blood again. He has tried his best. The moment those two bone spurs penetrated his body, he almost fainted from the pain. Looking at the wonderful figure flashing above, it was the independent sword fairy who was also his wife. Suddenly it didn't hurt so much. At this moment, Lin Suying's brows and eyes were filled with burning anger. She stood on the dying evil dragon's head, and the water moon sword directly turned into a machete, slashing wildly at the evil dragon. It's more or less a personal grudge. The evil dragon's head drooped little by little. The moment the evil dragon's aura completely dissipated, all the undead creatures stood still above the infinite altar. After a while, the partition space of the altar shattered. All the undead creatures rushed towards the bottom of the altar. Not good, Lin Suying's expression changed. She came to Su Xian and helped him up. How are you? Can you still move? It seems a little difficult. Su Xian spat out a mouthful of blood and suddenly pulled out the two huge bone spurs inserted into his body, bringing out the contaminated blood. The evil power left by the evil dragon is still causing trouble in my body, and I need to suppress it with all my strength. Just 10 minutes. Good. Lin Suying glanced above. Evil dragon, evil dragon. Even if he died, he would leave them with such a big trouble. She carried Su Xian behind her back, tied their bodies tightly together with a rope, and let the blood soak her clothes. Are you ready? Lin Suying took a deep breath and said, the road ahead will not be easy. There is only one way out of the infinite altar. The space here is too unique, and you cannot even directly travel to the outside world. If you want to get out, you can only fight your way out from the endless undead creatures that are driven into madness. One more thing. Su Xian looked at the corpse of the evil dragon on the ground. With a flash of the ring in his hand, he put the evil dragon's body into the space of clear spring flowing sound. This is a good thing, we can't waste it. Lin Suying smiled and didn't say much. Above, undead creatures pour down. Lin Suiying held the water moon sword and swam upstream. She is the only bright flower blooming in the vast white bone river. In fact, the battle with the evil dragon brought Lin Suiying to the point where she was almost exhausted, but she still held onto her sword tightly. This time, it's not for the world. Just for the right person. The retrograde road was always so difficult. The vast expanse of bones and endless soul fire made Lin Suiying unable to see the end above the altar. A wry smile appeared on her lips. Until now, she didn't know why this place was called the Infinite Altar. The path upstream is truly infinite. If you can't get out of here, even if you kill the evil dragon, it will be meaningless. Her injuries were getting worse. So much so that the application of the power of the world has become difficult, with tingling pain all over the body, and every step taken is extremely difficult. 10 minutes. Are we here? Lin Suiying thought to herself, and her hand holding the Shuiyu sword became weaker and weaker. She told herself that if she persisted one more step, she would be able to exit. However, what awaits her is always a vast expanse of white. Her spirit suddenly fell into a trance for a moment, and she was instantly swept away by the torrent of undead. The rope around his waist was quietly loosened at this moment. She was suddenly startled and subconsciously grasped Su Xian's body tightly, but her waist was hugged by a thick hand. Putting his palms around her slim waist, Su Xian hugged her into his arms. "Thank you for your hard work, my wife. Leave the rest to me." Lin Suiying's tense nerves slowly relaxed. This was the first time that 10 minutes felt so long to her. Su Xian smiled, "Honey, can you lend me your water moon sword to play with?" He took the water moon sword. Lin Suiying had taught her the basic moves of Jinghua Shuiyu, and she was naturally comfortable in using them, not to mention that his wife's sword had no intention of resisting him at all. He is simply more obedient than my wife herself. The sword energy is everywhere. One sword cuts through 10,000 souls. The Shuiyu sword, which was mainly soft, was now showing its domineering power in Su Xian's hands. Passing through layer after layer of altars, the attacks of the undead creatures became more and more crazy. Su Xian's sword was wielding more and more smoothly, and Lin Suiying, who was held in his arms, was stunned. She remembered that when Su Xian first taught the basic part of Mirror Flower Water Moon in the Lin family's secret room, Su Xian showed his outstanding talent, and even entered a state of enlightenment, triggering chaotic resonance. Let her glimpse the opportunity to become a king and condense the seeds of the world. Now looking back, this man has already walked into her heart. The light ahead gradually appeared. The exit of the infinite altar finally appeared. Su Xian swung it suddenly, and the powerful sword energy crossed the 8 wastelands, chopping the undead creatures within 10 miles with one sword. Su Xian saw that there seemed to be an army of blue star rushing towards the side in the distance. Judging from the aura, it seemed that the people of the 3rd Legion of Dragon Country, King Chongming and King Wenel were there, and there were several marquises. Lin Suiying blushed slightly. "Okay, put me down." As she said that, she was about to break free from Su Xian's arms. Su Xian chuckled, "That won't do. Honey, you haven't recovered yet. I'll continue to hold you and heal your wounds in my arms." Lin Suiying had no choice but to stop struggling. She wrapped her arms around Su Xian's neck and buried her head in his chest. Is this guy going to announce it to the whole world? Alas! Just let him be. Su Xian quickly flew in the direction of the Blue Star team, and the two sides met soon. King Chongming and King Wenel were quite impressed with Su Xian. After all, he was a man who ate the soft rice of the Water Moon King. Wait. The next moment, their eyes froze. Looking at the figure in Su Xian's arms, is that the Water Moon King? Good guy. Is this a soft rice? 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Ming Tong Shui. Chapter 208. We are used to seeing the cold side of Shui Yuang. It is the first time for King Chongming and King Wenel to see Shui Yuang in such a feminine manner. It is obvious that Shui Yuang's aura is much stronger than Su Xian. But she curled up in Su Xian's arms delicately. This. Is she still Shui Yuang? They are a little doubtful about life. It's okay to play behind the scenes, but if he does it openly, isn't Shui Yuang afraid that this gigolo will be hacked to death on the street? Hello, King Chongming and King Wenel. Su Xian took the initiative to greet him, which is the basic etiquette for the powerful kings. Brother Su, you are polite. King Wenel laughed dryly twice. He was reluctant to call him brother, but he had to give face to Shui Yuang. Shui Yuang, why did the undead creatures suddenly riot? This should be related to you, right? King Kongming's temper was not so good. After being defeated by Lin Suying last time, he couldn't get over that hurdle in his heart and was very resistant to Shui Yuang's personal actions. As for Su Xian, he was too lazy to bother with him. What he despised most in his life was those who lived off women. Su Xian smiled, the undead creatures' riots are indeed related to us, but they have been resolved. It won't be long before those undead creatures will die on their own. Thank you all for your support. If there is nothing else, I will take my wife back to recuperate. The corner of King Kongming's mouth twitched. Old wife. When did it happen? He secretly glanced at King Shuiyu, who was held in Su Xian's arms, but he didn't say anything. Was it considered a tacit agreement? King Wenel was also full of emotion. Even if they had no love for King Shuiyu, they were still a little jealous in their hearts. Whether in terms of appearance or talent and strength, King Shuiyu was considered top-notch. If such a stunning woman married an equally outstanding person, they could still understand. What made Su Xian conquer a woman like King Shuiyu? Because he was handsome. In the circle of the strong, being handsome is useless. Alas! The more they thought about it, the more confused they became. They were too lazy to care about it. They just complained in their hearts. It was none of their business who the Water Moon King really wanted to be with. That's right. King Chongming suddenly remembered something and said, King Shuiyu, since you know the secret of the infinite altar, do you know what happened in the sorrowful cave recently? A mysterious strong man of the human race suddenly appeared. It is said that he usually wears a red evil ghost mask and has a pet. He killed 6 marquises of the 3rd Legion in the north of Lulan Star. He also took down the camp of the 3rd Legion in the north of Lulan Star and rescued thousands of human compatriots. Finally, he appeared in the sorrowful cave again, turned the tide, disrupted the Lulan Star plan, and set up a big situation to solve Claudia and the Lulan Star prophet. It seems that the source of the mysterious substance and the extremely evil magic sword fell into his hands. King Shuiyu, do you know this person? Speaking of the mysterious strong man, King Chongming was full of admiration. If the human race had a few more such powerful people, why would they worry about not being able to defeat Lulan Star? In this sorrowful cave incident, Lulan Star suffered heavy losses, which directly led to the loss of the right to compete for resources, but it all relied on that person. The one who could be said to have changed the situation of the entire 3rd line of defense by himself. Su Xian simply shook his head, I don't know him. My wife and I have been staying in the infinite altar. How could we know such a thing? He himself didn't expect him to be so great. In fact, he was mainly to help his wife and to untie the knot for his disciples. The rest of the things were just going with the flow. After King Chongming boasted like this, he was a little bit floating. Of course, he didn't intend to reveal his identity yet, so he pretended not to know. Lin Suying even lay directly in Su Xian's arms and pretended to be dead. Of course, she knew that all that was done by Su Xian, but Su Xian never liked false reputation. There was no need to expose his identity for a little credit and bring disaster. Seeing this, King Chongming didn't say anything more. King Wenel made a round, Thank you for your hard work, Brother Su. King Shuiyu is injured. You take her back to recuperate. Let us handle the rest. Thank you. Su Xian thanked him. He said goodbye to the two kings and went straight to the base of the 3rd Legion of Dragon Country. After getting away from the Blue Star team, Lin Suiying slowly opened her eyes. Can you let me down now? No. Want to rebel? Before Su Xian finished speaking, Lin Suiying had already broken free by herself, stood in front of Su Xian, straightened her clothes, and returned to her usual cold appearance. Not far ahead was the base of the Dragon Country's 3rd Army. Su Xian also put away his playful mood. Wife, don't you still have to go to other forbidden areas? What are we going back here for? No hurry, let's rest for a while. The matter of the infinite altar also made Lin Suiying realize the difficulty of the task. The evil dragon was weakened like that, and she and Su Xian could only barely kill it together. The next action must be more cautious. How long will it take to rest? Su Xian asked. How about? Lin Suiying's eyes flashed with cunning. 10 months, what do you think? Su Xian. Just kidding. Seeing Su Xian stunned, Lin Suiying burst out laughing. Don't you also want to report your safety to the disciples? It's been almost 3 months, and those little guys are still worried about you even if they know you're still alive. That's right. The two walk side by side into the base of the 3rd Legion. Meet the Water Moon King. Meet the Water Moon King. The soldiers saluted one after another. Since the Water Moon King broke through the title of king and appeared in public, his popularity has risen a lot, and there are more discussions in the army, not only because of his beauty. A heroine like the Water Moon King is naturally loved. Su Xian walked beside Lin Suiying, and was burned by countless eyes all the time. They just returned to the room in the camp. A voice came from outside. The 3rd Combat Battalion of the 3rd Corps of the Dragon Country on the 3rd Front of Blue Star, the 1st Squadron of the new recruit company, Sun Xiaokong wants to see the Water Moon King. Come in. Su Xian's calm voice came out. He knew about Sun Xiaokong when he met Xiao Lu. For Sun Xiaokong, the battlefield is the best training for him, and he did not interfere. The master leads the way, and the practice depends on the individual. He has almost taught his disciples what he should teach. Everyone has a different understanding of the path of practice. A teacher is to preach, impart knowledge, and solve doubts. Su Xian has already done the first two. If there are doubts about cultivation, he will still teach his disciples, but the daily cultivation path should be walked by the disciples themselves. Too many constraints will make the disciples feel constrained. Teacher. Sun Xiaokong walked into the room and was surprised when he saw Su Xian. He said excitedly, "Second senior sister is right. You are really with the Water Moon King." He seemed to realize that he was a little out of control, and hurriedly saluted to Lin Suiying. Junior Sun Xiaokong meets the Water Moon King. Su Xian said nothing and held Lin Suiying's hand. Ahem, it's time to change your words. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 209. Looking at his teacher and the tender-looking Shui King, Sun Xiaokong was stunned. What a guy! As expected of a teacher, he has been in the battlefield of the two worlds for less than 3 months, and he has even taken down Shui King. Although the disciples knew it was a matter of time, they were still shocked when they saw it with their own eyes. He immediately bowed to Lin Suiying. Disciple Sun Xiaokong, meet the master's wife. No need to be polite. Lin Suiying raised her hand and motioned Sun Xiaokong to stand up. Xiaokong, how does it feel to be on the battlefield? Su Xian asked with a smile. After more than 3 months of training, Although Sun Xiaokang's realm is only the initial stage of Tianhe realm, his fighting spirit and murderous aura are much stronger, which are all honed from killing. Sun Xiaokang's eyes were like fire. Teacher, I feel that I am the real me on the battlefield. I like the feeling of being full of energy and licking blood on the tip of the knife. Only by honing between life and death can I make real progress and catch up with your pace as soon as possible. Su Xian looked at him. The eye of the divine mentor is open. Data emerges. Root bone value, 160. Comprehension value, 170. Mind value, 115. Compatibility with the method Tuko Star people has been practiced, and the current progress is 18,000 meter life field. Already existing physique or bloodline, already has the prototype of the fighting saint body, evolution degree, 20%. Compared with the global higher education institutions exchange competition, Sun Xiaokang has made good progress in all aspects. Xiaokang, you can consider staying in the army for long-term development in the future. This is a good place, Su Xian commented. Teacher, what about you? Sun Xiaokang asked, are you going back to Blue Star or staying here? I don't know yet. Su Xian didn't plan too much. There are not many things that can make him worry about, and his wife's affairs are the top priority. Secondly, among the several disciples, the one who worries him most is Xile, who has not grown up yet but has a mysterious background. As for Xile, he has Lao, an old man, to guide him, and Xile's own strength has reached the level of a marquis, so there is no need to worry too much. The last thing is that the seventh disciple has not found a suitable candidate. The way of deduction is too mysterious. Most professionals have no talent in this aspect. And those hidden sects that are good at deduction, such as Tianchi Mansion, are passed down from generation to generation, and it is impossible to dig people from such places. Sure enough, the seventh one is always the most difficult to gather. According to the system's reward calculation, after the 7 disciples have practiced the skills he taught to perfection, they should also be able to get a mentor gift package. Su Xian put away his thoughts. With his personality, it is naturally impossible for him to desperately search all over the world, and it will ultimately depend on fate. If he really can't find it, 6 disciples are not impossible. Next, Su Xian chatted with Sun Xiaokang for a while, and learned from him some follow-up of the Abyss attack incident, and helped him solve some doubts about practice. A few hours later, Sun Xiaokang said goodbye to Su Xian with reluctance and returned to the barracks. After Sun Xiaokang left, Su Xian wrote 2 letters and sent them back to his disciples, one to Zhongmu and Xile in Dingai Wangcheng, and the other to Xianyu and Qingqing in Longduchan. He also remembered the kindness of King Wuan, who entered the rift of the other dimension to search for him. However, if King Wuan knew that he was not only fine, but also went to the battlefield of the 2 worlds to take a hot spring bath with his wife, the old man would probably be furious and beat him up. After solving these problems, Su Xian stretched and looked at Lin Suiying, who had just finished bathing. She was half lying on the head of the bed, her black hair hanging from her shoulders, extending to the surging place, her white arms against her temples, her jade feet gently shaking, as if thinking about something. Wife, what are you thinking about? Su Xian moved over and gently embraced her. Didn't we agree to rest? Why are you still so worried? Lin Suiying sighed. It would be great if I could really rest in peace. I don't like the chaos and disputes. It's better to worry a little now and solve the problem early than to worry for generations. It will be solved. Su Xian comforted. Before the 2 established a relationship, he didn't know that Lin Suiying had so much to bear. Now that he knows, he is distressed. Lin Suiying turned her head and looked at Su Xian, her eyes like water. I will take you to meet a good friend tomorrow, will you go? Friend, Su Xian was puzzled. This is the first time I heard that you have a good friend. Lin Suiying smiled and said, she is also a super beautiful girl. Really? Su Xian asked, but he stopped himself and immediately changed his words, I don't believe it. No matter how beautiful she is not as pretty as you. Lin Suiying covered her mouth and laughed softly, she is really beautiful, she is from the elf tribe. Elf tribe. Su Xian said righteously, although the elves are very popular with humans, am I, your husband, such a cliché? Let alone ordinary elves? Even if the elf saint, or even the legendary Red Moon Tavern proprietress came, I would not look at her twice. Lin Suiying blinked and said, I will take you to see the elf proprietress. Ah! The unexpected answer made Su Xian confused. Lin Suiying raised her eyebrows, what? Have you changed your mind? This one, I really want to see her. Su Suandeo, the Red Moon Tavern can be spread all over the world. I think he is also a boss with great hands and eyes. I naturally want to pay my respects. He gave Lin Suiying a thumbs up, as expected of my wife, she even makes such great friends. Poor talk. Lin Suiying looked away. Okay, it's getting dark, let's go to bed early. Humph, I'm not doing anything serious every day. This is the right thing to do. Whoa. One night? No sleep. Early next morning. Su Xian was defeated again and came out holding the wall. Lin Suiying was full of energy, walking behind Su Xian, smiling sweetly. The two of them left the military camp and headed south. The legendary boss lady was at the base headquarters of the First Legion of the Dragon Kingdom. Su Xian has always been curious about the proprietress. He never expected that this person would be his wife's friend. By the way, wife, you are so young, the landlady must be at least over 500 years old, right? How did you become friends? Lin Suiying explained, according to her seniority, I should indeed call her senior, but she doesn't like these red tapes, and she doesn't like others calling her too old. She said that beautiful women should be friends with beautiful women, and she insisted on being my equal. I was helpless. When you get there, you must not call her senior, otherwise I won't be able to protect you. Su Xian nodded, then what should I call her? Lin Suiying thought for a moment and said, just call her by her name. Her name is Moira. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 210. Two World Battlefield, the headquarters of the Dragon Country's First Army. Su Xian and Lin Suiying walked in here. After a strict identity confirmation procedure, they were allowed to enter the inner city. The Dragon Country's First Army base shoulders the heavy responsibility of guarding the first line of defense. 500 years of infrastructure construction has gradually made it a super city. The scale is large enough to rival the inner city of any royal city. All military and civilian facilities are available here, and it is impossible to tell that such a prosperous city is in the cruel battlefield between the two worlds. The most important thing is that any professional who participates in the war has free consumption here, which is also a reward from the country to the soldiers fighting on the front line. The Red Moon Tavern, which is spread all over Blue Star, also has a branch here. Lin Suiying and Su Xian walked into the tavern side by side, and immediately attracted countless eyes. Isn't that the Water Moon King? Is it really the Water Moon King? How did she come to the First Legion base? The one next to him is, the King of Dingai Soft Rice. I don't envy the Mandarin Ducks or the Immortals, I envy Su Xian every day. The arrival of the Water Moon King attracted countless discussions. Su Xian had long been accustomed to certain remarks and was not angry at all. He gently took Lin Suiying's hand and walked to the corridor inside the tavern together. At the end of the corridor, there was an open room. Look inside. There was a figure in a red tight dress. She leaned against the empty bar and tasted the wine alone. Walked into the tavern. With the dim light, Su Xian could really see the legendary proprietress. The tight red dress perfectly outlined her hot figure, and her long golden hair was piled high and simply fixed with a few wooden forks. Her eyes were narrow and long, with natural charm, and her ears were pointed, no different from other elves. The simple dress completely exposed her white jade arms. The proud and eye-catching part was also half covered and half exposed, which frightened Su Xian, and he immediately retracted his gaze. If he continued to look at her, his wife would kill someone. Moira, long time no see. Lin Suying smiled and greeted. Little Suying, you finally came to see me. Moira shook the goblet, and the deep red wine rippled in the goblet. She exhaled like orchids, her eyes were blurred, and she walked to Lin Suying and chuckled, who is this person next to you? Hello, Moira, I am Su Xian, Suying's future husband. Su Xian introduced himself. Future husband, Moira held Lin Suying's shoulders and laughed, it seems that little Suying has grown up, but... Moira changed the subject, I remember that there was a man who saved our elf Saint Atna before, and his name seemed to be Su Xian, it wouldn't be such a coincidence, right? Su Xian was embarrassed on the spot. Lin Suying's eyes also turned to Su Xian. Ahem, Su Xian laughed dryly and said, I do know Atna, we are friends, but I haven't seen her since she went back to Lowland Star. Moira looked at Su Xian twice, but some words were not spoken. The elves dare to love and hate, and never hide. She knew Atna's feelings for Su Xian. But since Su Xian had Xiao Suying, those things could only be hidden in the dust. Atna is a miserable child. Moira said, since you are Atna's friend, Su Xian, and Xiao Suying's future husband, I won't avoid you with some words. Lin Suying frowned, and a bad premonition arose in her heart, what happened? Moira said worriedly, you should know that Lowland Star suffered a disastrous defeat in the Sorrow Cave incident recently, and suffered heavy losses. It is said that it was caused by a mysterious human. They issued the highest level of hunting order against that mysterious person, and are currently tracking down that person's identity. Once found out, they will kill him at all costs. If you know that mysterious person, you can give him a reminder. It was also because of this incident that the war faction of Lowland Star was completely angry. With the help of the recent 10,000 Races Council, they sanctioned all the elves in Lowland Star. Speaking of this, Moira paused, looked at Lin Suying, and said in a deep voice, they sent garrison troops to supervise the Eternal Forest. The ostensible purpose is to prevent the elves from Eldar riot. The deeper purpose is unknown, but you should know how important the Eternal Forest is in that plan. Lin Suying's face also darkened, so, the elven saint who sneaked back has exposed her identity. And she is standing on the opposite side of us. Moira nodded, Atna will not betray us, but she is under too much pressure now, and the plan may fail at any time. In recent years, the pro-war faction of Lowland Star has reduced its actions against Blue Star, but has been constantly purging the pro-peace faction. In your words on Blue Star, you must first stabilize the country before you can resist foreign aggression. The Council of all races may have to make a big move. Lin Suying clenched his fists, I didn't expect the situation to be so serious. After all, my speed is still too slow. It would be better if I could be faster. Moira comforted, Xiao Suying, you have done a good job. Lowland Star itself has an absolute advantage in combat power, plus those uncontrollable factors, alas. Su Xian listened on the side, seemingly understanding. The proprietress of the Red Moon Tavern has a mysterious identity. She has provided a lot of help to Blue Star since the beginning of the collision between the two worlds, and seems to have been involved in Lin Suying's plan. The complexity of the matter once again exceeded his cognition. Is there any remedy? Lin Suying asked. Yes. Moira nodded, according to the current situation, Atna is trapped on Lowland Star and is under the supervision of the 10,000 Races Council. I am afraid she can't come back. There is only one way for us to bring that thing back. Lin Suying said solemnly, Do you mean to send someone to Lowland Star to pick her up and bring that thing back? Moira nodded. This is the best way, but also the most dangerous way, but you also know that the thing is an indispensable part of the whole plan. We must go, and we have to send someone who is absolutely trustworthy. Lin Suiying pondered. Absolutely trustworthy person? Su Xian's figure naturally emerged in her heart. But she didn't want Su Xian to take this risk. That kind of place is a life and death situation. If he is discovered, he will only die on the isolated Lowland Star. Demigods may not be able to come back even if they go there. Moira said, think about it carefully. We still have enough time to prepare and make a careful plan. There is no need to rush. Okay, Lin Suiying nodded. Moira put away her serious expression and smiled, then Xiao Suiying will rest here for a few more days and accompany me to get drunk. How about that? Lin Suiying smiled bitterly and glanced at Su Xian beside her. Tisk tisk, Xiao Suiying is really different now that she has a man. Moira laughed even more happily. For Xiao Suiying, I will make an exception and let him taste my secret wine.